Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show, where I am Patrick Daugherty with my 19th cold of the calendar year. Joined today by Kyle Dvorchak, Lawrence Jackson, Denny Carter is on the road. Denny Carter, he's just always on the road now. He's left us behind. He's a bad man. The lawyers are documenting all of this, though, so it's fine. But, yeah, I'm kind of losing my voice, but I'm not losing my excitement because today's my home league baseball draft. Am I right, guys?
There you go.
When are your guys' home league drafts in baseball, Kyle?
2056. That's when I have my first one planned.
2056. That's
Lawrence,
pretty soon.
Lawrence, where's your Braves hat? You at least have baseball paraphernalia.
I do. I like to flex on them whenever the Braves are important and doing good. And they was in the playoffs last year. Once they got knocked out, I didn't wear the hat for like 2-3 weeks after that. But then it was like, damn, Lawrence, these the only kind of hat you got. So
I honestly kind of associate the Atlanta A as like one of your signatures. It is a humongous important part of your personal style.
I have like a Guardians 2015 ALCS pendant shirt. Rotopat, how many of those details were correct?
Well, they were still referred to as the Indians then.
I did know that one would be incorrect.
It was 2016.
Okay.
They did win the AL Bennett though in 2016.
Okay, I was pretty sure they were AL, but you could have told me I was wrong about that too, and I would have gone like 0 for 4.
Wow, that's pretty bad. Lawrence, what league are the Braves in? The American League or the National League?
damn.
I think I know this one.
Because so look, no matter if I get it right or wrong, just the fact that I can't confidently say it right now, I'm gonna say national because the Falcons are in the National Football Conference, so I'm just gonna guess that the Braves is in the National.
I'm not sure about your logic, but
this logic, how could you be wrong?
Hey, look, that's
as are the Guardians.
That is the analytics right there.
What Lawrence dipping into analytics, and I say baseball might be in trouble if two young gentlemen such as yourselves don't even know things like what league the Braves.
Look, just think about this, right, Pat? The fact that I couldn't confidently answer that question, there's people that talk about football that can't answer the same parallel question. So, hey, maybe I could be a baseball guy soon.
You are. You could be. It's baseball. It's easy to get in. There's so much information that you can like just dabble in 1% of it.
Give me some basic stats like home run leaders. Well, I know Aaron Judge hit a lot of those.
He did. And the Braves, Ronald Acuna, strongly in the mix for the number 1 overall pick this year. But these are some things I have to sort out for my draft.
What pick do you have?
Got the 9th. And
who you picking?
36 players are kept to. I mean, in my dream scenario, it's an OBP league. One of Ohtani,
Don't
Batter.
know what that means. Thanks.
One of Ohtani, Batter, Vladito, Mookie Betts, or Juan Soto falls to me, but it's quite high odds. All 4 take because 36 of the best players are already kept. So I'm in.
What you said it was an OBP league? I hate baseball with all these like X bip and bop over expected, and football is bad about that.
Football's getting bad too. I mean,
football's getting bad, but like the baseball abbreviations are brutal.
They are.
I'm from the Big Hurt Frank Thomas era, the Kirby Puckett era. That's back when I played fantasy baseball, Pat. So you know what I'm saying? I'm a throwback player.
Baseball was the gateway for a lot of people into football, and then they just found out they liked football a lot better. But I stuck with baseball in addition to football. And speaking of changing tastes, Brandin Cooks. No one ever seems to want to keep the guy. He's been traded for a 4th time from the Houston. So first off, Brandin Cooks, when he was extended by the Texans in 2021, he said he would never be traded again. And then he spent all of 2022 demanding a trade. And
look, life comes at you fast, all right?
Yeah.
He came at Brandin Cooks quite fast. He has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th and 6th round pick. Humongous upgrade in terms of the talent around him and like the 53-man roster. But Kyle, I'll start with you. Is it really an upgrade for Brandin Cooks, like from a fantasy perspective? Where now he's competing with an Alpha and CeeDee Lamb for targets. Michael Gallup should be a lot stronger in his second year coming off his torn ACL. Like, what is kind of the initial fantasy outlook for my initial read on Brandin Cooks is that he's gonna be a wide receiver 3. You like want someone else to draft, which is how I viewed him last year. So nothing has really changed for me with Brandin Cooks. What about you?
I think he could be a wide receiver 3. I'm fine drafting. I'm probably not going to get over my skis on like a 30-some-year-old player changing teams, coming off of a not great year for his standards, which are pretty high. Like, that's just not my archetype. As a Zoomer, we're looking for these 22-year-olds. But last year, I mean, even as a down year last year, it was like the 3rd worst yards per route run of his career. It was his worst target share in Houston. Even then, it wasn't terrible. He still out-targeted Nico Collins when they were on the field together. He was the wide receiver 33 in target share, 39th in yards per route run. So in a down year for his standards, he was a fine 3rd receiver for a team to have. And part of that is that he was playing on a terrible team. It is hard to post efficient route run numbers if your quarterback is not good. So I think it's probably an upgrade for him compared to last year. Do I think it is an upgrade for him compared to having probably Bryce Young on his team? Maybe you'd rather be the massive target getter for a Bryce Young-led offense than the number 2/3 target for Dallas. But simply looking at it versus last year, it's definitely an upgrade. And I think he'll look better than he did last year as well. Last year was a down year for him, but there are reasons for that to be the case. I mean, one sole reason is that he did not want to play there. It was so incredibly obvious. Well before he
was tanking on the season.
Yeah. At the end of the year, like as soon as he played his last game, I think he had like a post on his Twitter, like thanking Texans Nation. Like, you're still on this team right now, right? Like, so I think.
Hey, he was ready. He was on in the locker room, like.
No, that was a scheduled tweet, Lawrence.
Soon, yeah, right. Soon as they
goes into
beat the
overtime,
Bears,
it's sent out in overtime. He's lucky it didn't. So he'll be better. I think on his own personal efficiency level, he will be better. He'll be better than that. I think he won't earn as many targets, but that's kind of to be expected. And he's on a significantly better offense. I am worried that the Cowboys just want to run it 40 times a game. So I don't know. We'll see how good the Cowboys offense is. It's better than the Texans were last year, and it's better than that by miles. Like, no matter what philosophy they ultimately go with, even if they really lean on this Brian Schottenheimer thing. So I think it is an upgrade. He isn't really the archetype of player I'm dying to get on my roster, but I don't mind drafting Cowboys. They have one of the league's more efficient quarterbacks. They have the league's most efficient running back, a good offensive line. So yeah, I'll be fine with him as like a low end wide receiver 3. I'm not going to get a ton of him, but like, he's not done, I don't think. So it's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. The Houston media and his teammates were both emphasizing how much he has left in the tank. Like, kind of hinting at that, yeah, he could have given a lot more last year. Lawrence, what do you think?
Yeah, no doubt about it. He, I'm sure if the Houston Texans was a better football team, he could have got healthier just a little bit quicker. And speaking of him and how many times he done been traded, you said 4, right? I speaking of tweets, I made a tweet about Brandin Cooks 2 years ago when he got traded to the Texans. And I asked the question, is there a better player in NFL history who done been traded as many times as he's had? Because it's not like he getting traded and he just getting dumped off, right? He's getting traded and he's like, at minimum, the wide receiver 2 on a team. In some cases, Saints and Patriots, he's the number 1 wide receiver.
He fetched a first-round pick at least 2 of those trades.
Yes, 2 of those times he fetched the first-round pick. So, now he's on Dallas. And like you guys just said, no, he's not washed. But it's a situation where you give a little, take a little. Like, you give him to the better team, a better situation, but you also taking away some of them targets that you concede to CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. And like you said, Michael Gallup, he'll be a little stronger this year. So all of that doesn't mean he's washed. It just means exactly what you said. He's a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. Even if the Dallas Cowboys were some type of pass heavy attack, how high could we really truly put this guy, like mid wide receiver 2? That's if they were a pass heavy team. But as it stands right now, yeah, cool. If he's there, you probably, I don't know, me personally, I'd rather have like Donovan Peoples-Jones than Brandin Cooks. Yeah. If they roster stay like how it is. But yeah, he's a wide receiver 3 on hanging off the cliff right there. So it's cool. He'll have those weeks. He'll have some weeks where you miss starting him, like Gabe Davis.
So I have bad news. If not to play semantics, but has there ever been a receiver traded as many times as Brandin Cooks, as good as Brandin Cooks? He tied Eric Dickerson as the most traded player in NFL history at 4 times. So technically there is one more. If we're playing
you definitely got me there.
Respond to this in the comments. Yeah. In the comments,
I'm glad you brought up Eric Dickerson, because one of those teams he got traded to was the Falcons.
Yeah, Dickerson, a number of famous trades. And also, man, there's no way 4 trades can be the record. That means your league doesn't trade enough. There have been dudes in baseball been traded like 8 or 9 times.
That's a good point. You know what? Maybe I should get into baseball, because that is one thing I think the NFL generally misses out on, is like NBA blockbuster trades are so much fun. It's great, WWE level entertainment when these superstars are demanding trades. Give us more of that. Come on.
Dude, there's some guys in the NBA who've been traded like 9 or 10 times, by the way. Like Trevor I think Trevor Ariza has been traded 42 times. Sorry.
Yeah, he definitely double digits. But in football, to be traded as many times as Brandin Cooks has in the NFL, that means you have to have, some value, because they don't, like you said, they
don't just throw it around. That's a really, really
good don't just put you on there to just even if it's a late round pick, there's still something there, which is decent for a 29-year-old receiver.
Yeah, I think they gave up so little for Brandin Cooks because he didn't want to be on the team. That gives you so little leverage, and he's older and he's not super cheap. But actually, that was a pretty good deal. These picks are functionally they're almost unlikely to pan out to anything. Even a special teamer, you're unlikely to get from a future 6th-round pick. And they're not paying him that much. They're paying him just shy of $13 million this year. That's the wide receiver 20. And if you think about a player as good as Cooks hitting the open market, he'd probably be paid as the wide receiver 11, because that's just how the next good free agent works. They're always overpaid, and then hopefully it gets back to reasonably paid within a few years. So they're not paying him that much. They didn't pay the Texans that much. I thought this is it fills their needs pretty well. That was actually a really good deal by the
So
Cowboys.
We all basically said Brandin Cooks is a wide receiver 3 for fantasy. Who is the Cowboys' number 2 receiver? Is it Michael Gallup or Brandin Cooks?
I kind of think it's Cooks.
It got to be Cooks.
I think it is Cooks too, but I just wouldn't be surprised if Gallup is still very highly paid. He was still, we still have unrealistic expectations for guys coming off a torn ACL, and he just clearly wasn't at 100% last year. He should be much closer to the real Michael Gallup this year. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it got a little blurry, who was the number 2. But I definitely think for fantasy, Brandin Cooks is the number 2 Cowboys wide receiver you want to draft. And just real quick, he's an underdog right now. His ADP is basically identical to Jacoby Myers. Who would you rather have in 2023 fantasy? Jacoby Myers on the Raiders or Brandin Cooks on the Cowboys?
Cooks.
Give me Cooks, man.
Yeah, for sure. Even if the Cowboys go full fire and brimstone, Cooks is just a better player. It's just a better offense. I think Josh McDaniels is fixing to get fired mid-season for the second time.
Yeah, he did my boy Jimmy like that.
I'm so sorry.
This won't be the first time we do Jimmy like that on this show. And longtime listeners of this show will remember the thing you just did as what we called the game mid-season.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. A staple of the Tuesday podcast now on Mondays. And yeah, Jimmy G is one of those people that, boy, I'll be in real trouble if he's good this year. Because probably won't say a single good thing about the Jimmy G, Josh McDaniels connection this offseason. I guess we've talked enough about Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks, we don't think is washed. Adam Thielen, I don't know if any of us think he's washed, but he's been washing out of the league slowly. Had his worst season by far since becoming a known entity in 2022 for an offense that was very, very good. He was cut by the Vikings, right? He wasn't allowed to walk. He was released, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
Released by the Vikings. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised at his deal. 3 years, $25 million. I'm sure a lot of that's smoke and mirrors, but a better deal than I thought Adam Thielen would have gotten. Is he the Panthers' number 1 receiver right now? I guess he probably is.
Yeah, but it's just so much that gotta happen, in between now and the draft. before we even determine what type of receiver we're even going to be thinking about touching on the Carolina Panthers. Right now, for me, when it comes to Carolina Panthers offense, I'm thinking Miles Sanders, and he's going to get more receiving work. That's what I'm thinking about from a fantasy perspective. As far as the receivers go, yeah, you could say, he's their wide receiver one right now because he's got the most experience. He got the most clout, obviously, over a Terrace Marshall and a Shi Smith. It's easy. You could
Lawrence, say Visca's name. Come on, say it.
LaVisca, but see, he like
Hasta la Visca, baby.
I mean, just look. I just naturally said Shi Smith over. Said LaVisca Chenault. But hey, he's in the building too. He's in the building as well. He must be mentioned, but it's a scary situation. I remember when we first saw that the Panthers acquired the number 1 overall pick. We was all like, oh man, good luck to whatever quarterback goes over there. But they're starting to put, a couple of pieces here and there. At least Adam Thielen is a veteran presence. The dude definitely, if it's one thing you know how to do, is get open. He could get open. So, I would say, yeah, he's the wide receiver one right now. Like you said, Roto Pat, the deal kind of surprised you. Even though it's like you said, it's probably not a lot of guaranteed there, but just them putting the years on that, speaks of something.
And you're talking about giving, like, we don't know who the number 1 overall pick is going to be yet. We're going to talk about that in a minute, actually. But at least giving the number 1 pick like an archetype of a player, and the Thielen archetype is a guy who can get open in the red zone and a guy you can rely on in the red zone and the end zone. So at the very least, like giving him, if not necessarily a player to throw to, like a skill set to throw to, because if he's only putting up 720 yards or whatever in a full season with Kirk Cousins, we're not expecting, Adam Thielen's on the backside of his career, but he could still be useful as like a role player. And there's been few guys who've been better in the red zone, really, than Adam Thielen for like the past half decade. So do you have anything to add on Adam Thielen, Kyle? Because, I mean, it is like, you're going to have to talk yourself into drafting Adam Thielen this offseason. It's not like the case isn't made itself. Like, you have to, like, make the case. What do you have to say about Thielen?
Yeah. I'm not going to be the one talking you into Adam Thielen. He was, like, outside the top 80 receivers in yards per route run.
Yes,
he had his worst season by far in yards per route run. He didn't earn targets either. It was his worst season since his breakout in, I believe, 2017. And target share graded poorly in ESPN's open metric, near the bottom of the league, like outside the top 100 in their yards after the catch metric. He doesn't get separation anymore. I do think he's kind of washed. Like, I think he should be best served as like a pseudo tight end, like the way Larry Fitzgerald played at the end of his career, but less targets, right? And this team doesn't have a player to take targets away from him. Like, I love Visca. I don't think he's that guy. Terrace Marshall, he improved in his second year, but the bar was set so low. I think this is a team that really should be investing. They still have, I believe, second, third, and fourth round picks and multiples of at least maybe the third or fourth, because they had so many picks from the McCaffrey trade. So I think this is a team that should easily be investing 1, if not 2 day 2 picks in receiver, because Adam Thielen is best fit as a tertiary role player. He just didn't have it last year, and his yards per out run has dropped in every single season since 2017. Like, it's clear that the decline was, and maybe the scheme wasn't perfect for him last year, but the offense looked good last year. It didn't look like a systemic problem to the offense. It looked like a Thielen problem. So to me, I think they drastically overpaid for him. They have money dedicated to him, like void years in 26 and 27, like 1.7 million. I think it's his
not quite sure why you do that, but
his signing bonus got added to them, and they don't have a ton of money right now. So I don't know. I thought this was a really strange deal for a team that should consider themselves rebuilding.
And Kyle, to your point, producer Adam points out the draft ammo is lacking. In the top 100, the Panthers only have the number 1, 39, and 93 picks. So it's kind of 39th pick or bust if they want to get some receiving help, immediate receiving help, I should say, for their rookie quarterback. And the most charitable interpretation of this receiver core is that, again, they're kind of like, there are skill sets. Like, maybe Terrace Marshall can continue to progress deep down the field. He was fairly, I don't know if effective is right. He operated as a deep receiver in 2022. Visca's, of course, the run after catch guy. Adam Thielen, of course, is like the big experienced target. Hayden Hurst kind of stretches the seam. So at least, there you go.
That's the number one receiver.
There you go. So
Giovanni Ricci plays H-back.
So they at least
keep
have some
going.
archetypes.
Ian Thomas blocks.
I think they cut Ian Thomas, didn't they?
I think they restructured. Not cut.
Yeah. So they have some archetypes there. So like we're talking about these receivers, Kyle. Like just asking you to like what's the buzz? And I mean, you're not in league circles, but what's the claim that the buzz is in league circles right now as to who the Panthers are actually going to take in number 1 overall, and maybe throw the ball to Adam Thielen?
Yeah, I mean, it seems still really likely to be Stroud. He's pretty much universally around minus 300, which is about 75% likely to happen before factoring in the hold. I mean, and this is a scenario we've kind of seen before. We had markets move heavily on Trey Lance at one point, Trayvon Walker, Zach Wilson, and all of those like significant money moves ended up being right, where those guys got pushed out anywhere from like Zach Wilson basically coming off the board being like well over minus 1,000 to the Walkers and the Trey Lances being like minus 2 to minus 500 right before the draft, if I remember correctly. These have been markets that when they shoot their shot, if you want to put it that way, have generally been correct. I know this like happened with the first overall pick in the NBA too recently. So I think it is highly likely. I'd even like still take over 75% that it is Stroud. It's
interesting that the markets are so bullish on Stroud because it does seem to be Stroud, but we haven't gotten like that report yet, from like that thinly veiled like Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport report. Like Panthers seem comfortable with CJ Stroud at number 1. Like we haven't really gotten that yet. So it is interesting to me that the markets are like so confident. And you didn't mention Anthony Richardson there. Lawrence, Anthony Richardson, I noticed on Twitter, you pointed out, is someone you've been mentioning for quite a while. Someone called you like a Johnny come lately to like the Anthony Richardson hype train, and you were like, not true, sir.
Yeah, I had to pull up them receipts on
you
him.
You did. You pulled it. So why do you like Anthony Richardson so much? I mean, I know a lot of people do.
For the same reason we like a lot of other quarterbacks, except he has more than them other quarterbacks have. He could throw the ball, despite what people, think they see or want to see. He does it and does it accurately. But as far as the first pick goes, as far as the first overall pick goes, right?
You like him, but you don't like him that much.
I don't want him to be the first pick if Adam Thielen has to be the number 1 receiver.
Yes.
Let it be Stroud. Or, in the matter of fact, no. Let it be Will Levis.
This is unfortunately the correct take. We sacrifice Will Levis to the Adam Thielen.
Let him
can
do
get
that.
Anthony Richardson to Michael Pittman.
Don't put that out there, man. That's not nice.
And so going back to Anthony Richardson, to be truthful and non-biased, a lot of people said, well, CJ Stroud had the best arm at the combine. He was the most accurate. Well, that's true. I would put Anthony Richardson right behind him in that aspect. But then again, that's the combine. I promise you, when Michigan State beat down Ohio State this past football season, people were saying CJ Stroud should go back to school. I saw somebody say he should transfer to Alabama. Like, what? Like, these dudes got rolled one game, and, all it took was for him to be what he truly is, what he really is, which is more like how he performed against UGA and what was really the national championship. That ended right at the strike of midnight there. That was more so of the real CJ Stroud. When it comes to these quarterbacks, it's about what do you want? What do you prefer? The reason I wouldn't like Anthony Richardson to go there, because I like him to go to a team that has a true number 1 wide receiver. The good thing about the Panthers, they got the coaching staff full of former NFL players, including Josh McCown as the quarterback coach. So you're gonna get coached up. So whether it be Stroud, he'll be okay. No one's talking about Bryce Young being number 1 anymore. I still think that's a possibility. But like Kyle said, after the combine, the odds shifted drastically in favor of CJ Stroud, and it's like not even close right now. So I don't see how we could go against it. I'm still feeling like it'll be a CJ Stroud. I'd like to see Anthony Richardson get to the Colts.
Man, that would be nice. And just before anyone tweets to the podcast, by the way, it was Michigan that CJ Stroud got lit up by. He utterly annihilated Michigan State with 6.
Did I say Michigan State?
As we do in Columbus, we'll light up Michigan State when we have to.
But a few talking points I have to. So first off, I really like a young quarterback ending up with Frank Reich, who earned the reputation as like a quarterback whisperer, but it was always washed over the hill guys. He finally bit off more than he can chew. Be really, really exciting to see Frank Reich with an actual young, talented player like CJ Stroud. But I mean, what about the narrative that, Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL, like Dwayne Haskins, didn't pan out? Justin Fields has yet to pan out as a passer. Is there anything to that? Like, is this like a system that just makes guys unstoppable in college? But isn't that's a dumb narrative, correct? You guys?
Yeah, it's nothing to that.
Yeah, because Kyle, by the way, in case you don't know this, went to Ohio State if you're listening. So take everything.
Well, how were you as a quarterback, Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle played quarterback for Urban Meyer.
I gave it my best as a walk-on. I didn't find the right spot for me, but I think, you're telling me that if I'm out there and I've got JSN in the slot, I've got Garrett Wilson on the outside, I've got Chris Olave on the other side, I couldn't throw one pick maybe against Michigan State. Sure, Michigan lights me up for sure, but Michigan State with those receivers, I don't know. I could get something cooking.
Yeah, I will say of all the Ohio State quarterback prospects, Stroud looks like the most compelling to me, and deserves to be the number one overall. I mean, if you could turn off injuries, I would take Bryce Young number one. I will say that. I think Bryce Young is like a born quarterback. Like he's the guy who exudes like quarterback know-how. But man, he's
starting to get slept on a little bit too, and I don't know why.
He's literally my size. Is why. Like, that is why. Like
that is technically that's why. But like I want to know
Rotopat in person. You don't want to be Rotopat size in the NFL.
I mean, I'm the most average sized person you'll ever meet, and you can't be an average sized human being and play quarterback in the NFL. I'm 5'10", by the way, friend. I insist it's a real 5'10" too. It's not the fake 5'9", 5'10". I'm 5'10". So yeah, I'm getting my lawyers involved, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I love Bryce, but I would have taken him all last year. I was like, I'll take Bryce number one. And then at a certain point, I did start to realize, he might be maybe a little too small. But
well, as long as he could play good football, that's all that matters.
It is. Just don't get hurt, man.
He could eliminate that.
Please don't get hurt. Anthony Richardson too, man. Lawrence, Anthony Richardson. We got to get him somewhere that won't those kind of guys with like the raw skill sets have to end up like Josh Allen ended up with the right coaching staff. Anthony Richardson has to end up.
I think with Steichen and Indy would be a really good fit coaching wise, and they should have a good line. I think the receivers are a bit suspect, but maybe he's a guy who doesn't. Receivers aren't what he relies on. It's his blocking, it's his scheme, and his legs. Obviously, that at least early in his career, while he's trying to develop that arm and mesh with his coach, that's probably a good start. It's a better start than you're getting in Carolina, frankly. So I think Steichen would be a really good fit. And it kind of looks like things are trending that way, right? That's a pretty easy spot to mock him. It's where I'm going to have him both my first and probably second mock.
So you just please get Anthony Richardson with a good stat. Who did Jake Locker end up with? Like when you get these guys, I think it was Fisher. I think it was Jeff Fisher.
Titans. He was going to be what he was no matter where he went.
You're probably right. Fisher might already been fired by then, but
maybe I can't remember.
These guys though, when they end up with the wrong coach, so Anthony Richardson just can't end up with a bad org, and it's probably going to be. I would like to see Anthony Richardson honestly with like the Falcons. I think Arthur Smith is kind of shedding his fake sharp label. To be honest,
I don't know,
man.
I don't know.
He made as much lemonade as he could out of those lemons last year. The problem is that some of the lemons were of his own choosing.
I think there's I think he probably got too much hate last year because of how bad his team was and what do you even do with that? But I don't know about shedding the fake sharp. I think that's what a lot of coaches do. They have bad quarterback play and they run the ball a lot. I don't want to give him too much hate for it, but there's no credit to be earned from that.
Just please don't I mean, Anthony Richardson with like the Raiders would be like.
I'll tell you what about
that's
Anthony
bad.
Richardson. I'll tell you what about Anthony Richardson, right? Anthony Richardson, right now, if you sub him out with Daniel Jones, he would have did at least what Daniel Jones did last year. And Daniel Jones is in year 4. He did that. He threw 15 touchdowns and ran for another. Got to add in the rushing because
gotta pay him $160 million too.
Add the rushing or they'll jump you, right? 22 total touchdowns. Anthony Richardson would have gave you that, what Daniel Jones gave you with Brian Dable. Now, just imagine the threat of him in the backfield next to Saquon Barkley. Think of all the times you saw Daniel Jones running so freely in that beautiful green MetLife turf. It's because Saquon Barkley was next to him. Now you put Anthony Richardson right there. Oh my God. He would give
Anthony
you
Richardson certainly doesn't stumble at the 5 on that iconic Daniel Jones.
Oh, nah. He might be running through the stadium like Forrest Gump. Like, that's what he might do.
Man, I love, by the way, just gratuitous piling on of Daniel Jones. We need more of this on the podcast, especially now that he's a made man. Nothing we can say can hurt him. He's.
I mean, shout out to Daniel Jones though. He got big bucks now. Just a little bit more money than me, but still big bucks nonetheless.
And big two people from New Jersey, both making varying degrees of money.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. We will be right back after this. New MLB season, new rules, new stars. So pair it with the Rotoworld Baseball Draft Guide. Get all the player profiles, rankings, and projections you need to hit your draft out of the park. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/draft guide and use promo code PENNANT25 to save 25% at checkout. That is promo code PENNANT25 to save 25% at checkout. And of course, do not forget to download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all baseball season long, every sport season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. I'll be using the Rotoworld Baseball Guide for my Monday evening draft. Matthew Poliat's rankings, amazing write-ups from the entire team. Use it every year. It's a really, really good stuff. And even though Poliat occasionally, I'm like, I don't know, man, you really like Poliat, though. He's an amazing ranker because he has the courage of his convictions. And every year he gets made fun of for like 2 rankings. Like, man, Poliat's actually gone crazy this time. And then it's always the ones that are actually end up being right. So really, really good stuff in the Rotoworld Draft Guide. Back to football. One I honestly missed last week. This is the one signing I didn't get in my free agency recap article, which is currently up on the site. I somehow just totally flew under the radar. D'Onta Foreman ending up in Chicago for 1 year, $3 million. He was one of the more intriguing running backs of the entire cycle to me because he exploded in the advanced metrics last year, like rush yards over expected, especially. So did Chuba Hubbard. So some people probably thought maybe that success was system-based, Kyle. But what do we make of D'Onta Foreman being the guy who gets paired with Khalil Herbert in Chicago? And I guess it's probably a pretty good sign for Khalil Herbert. That I mean, $3 million that's not nothing. But what do we think about D'Onta Foreman ending up in this very, very run-heavy offense in Chicago?
Yeah, I think on one hand, he is like a really good stylistic foil to Khalil Herbert. Like Khalil Herbert is like shifty, not huge home run hitter, whereas Foreman is like, he is the dirty work guy, and he actually still hits home runs while doing the dirty work, which is so impressive. Like, he had one of the highest rates of stacked boxes. He ran like almost exclusively just from his quarterback under center, getting it. He got more carries with man blocking ahead of him than most other running backs. I think literally every other running back but one, like Josh Jacobs. Like, he goes out and does the dirty work and is still efficient, which is incredibly impressive. Like, he doesn't get like the benefits of at least didn't get the benefits of a rushing quarterback. He had like one of the lowest times behind the line of scrimmage. He just hits you, and he hits you hard and again and again and again. And he doesn't really lose his efficiency based on it. On the other hand, like, that's not the scheme he's necessarily going to. He's going to kind of the opposite, where you can spread the defense out. You can use your quarterback's legs to distract linebackers to give you good looks. And you're just going to get a lot more zone blocking in front of him, which he didn't really have last year. It's just not something we saw him do a lot last year. I still think he's good enough to play perfectly well in a different system, but there will always be concerns when you're going from like this very old school type of offense, running a lot, running straight in alignment and just running the linebackers over, to a more spread out, different, more I think it's probably going to be more work on him reading the blocks ahead of him. So I think maybe there's a concern that it's just a completely different style. But he was really good last year, and I hope he gets really good looks against defenses that are terrified of Justin Fields' home run hitting ability. They're terrified of Khalil Herbert just coming in and gashing them for 30. Like, this is a good landing spot, I think, for a running back. Maybe he doesn't stylistically fit perfectly, but he can do a lot of stuff Khalil Herbert naturally wouldn't do. My only concern is that maybe they still are looking for a running back to catch passes and block, because last year Foreman was ranked as nearly the worst pass blocker according to PFF. Khalil Herbert was middle of the road, and neither of these guys catch passes. Foreman, I think he had 5 catches last year or something. It was absurd. So, and Khalil Herbert, you watch him play and you're like, oh, they should throw that dude the ball. They don't throw him the ball, and he doesn't have a great yards per out run. So they're probably correct in doing that. So I do think maybe they need one more guy in that like pure J.D. McKissic style of role. Doesn't actually carry the ball at all, but neither of these guys are third down or pass catching backs. So I think he fits really well as the foil to Khalil Herbert. There's probably still maybe a missing piece coming though.
They did bring in Travis Homer. Did
they really?
He actually does fit the mold of the guy I was describing.
Yeah. Wow. I'll say this about the Bears running. I don't take them. I still don't put it past them to draft a running back.
Boy, because they love the running the ball.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is, so I was writing my stock up, stock down article after the first week of the new league year. That's up now on the site.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the guys I had as his stock going down was Khalil Herbert because of the D'Onta Foreman signing. Now, yeah, it's a little, I don't know, measly $3 million, definitely. And it's only a 1-year contract. But this guy coming off 900 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, like D'Onta Foreman, for what he's been through in his career, he tore it up last season. What's also interesting, when I was writing this article, I'm snoozing around on the old internet and stuff. I'm looking at depth charts, and our favorite depth chart website, ourlads.com, right? They had D'Onta Foreman ahead of Khalil Herbert on the depth chart. Now,
we won't be doing that with our depth charts.
Even in my article, I said, well, Khalil Herbert at this point probably be in the committee, but he'll be, at this point, he's the lead off in that committee. But man, it's quite interesting that they put D'Onta Foreman at the top of the depth chart there, and then it started seeping into my head like, oh yeah, this dude just ran for 900 yards. So maybe for like a week or so, we all felt like, oh yeah, Khalil Herbert, we just got to get through free agency, then get through the draft, and it's Khalil Herbert season, baby. But I don't think it's going to be Khalil Herbert season like that. Maybe it'll be more so than it has been, because like every time he got a chance to be the workhorse, he outperformed David Montgomery. But then when David Montgomery come back, Khalil Herbert pretty much disappears. So I don't think we'll have to worry about seeing that. But it's just with the frequency in which they run the ball, you could see some value in both of them.
Well, it is interesting too, because what if the Eagles thing happens and an offense that was so run heavy suddenly becomes a lot more pass heavy? Now they have more passing game weapons, and
that's what's going to happen.
Hopefully Justin Fields takes a step forward as a passer and kind of like scrambles the whole thing. I mean, Kyle, like, is D'Onta Foreman going to get drafted in redraft leagues? I mean, I'm assuming he probably will, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
But Khalil Herbert's going to be comfortably ahead, right? I mean, Khalil Herbert's going to be like top 5 or 6 rounds, right? I don't even know what his current ADP is, but maybe even higher than that.
I was going to say maybe even lower.
Okay.
I don't know. People really like Foreman. He was really good last year.
He was really, really good. He destroyed the advanced metrics.
You running 1,900 yards and your quarterbacks be Baker Mayfield and Darnold and all them cats, like, and you
Like
still
these are
finding.
legit, just like
Hey,
go off the guard's left hip and run into a stacked box that knows you're coming and try
Yeah,
and beat them down physically.
he
And he
looking like
did.
a little Derrick Henry out there who he was backing up. He can't, like, that's what got him
He's got
back on
that
the map.
too.
That is what put
That,
him on the
yeah, that's
map.
what got him back on the map, right? So,
It's been a fascinating situation. A lot going on with the Bears. A lot going on with Lamar Jackson, and also nothing going on with Lamar Jackson. Like
right.
we have no idea what's going on with Lamar Jackson. Really, he is. It seems like he's just going to be back in Baltimore. I mean, if he agrees to play, I wouldn't be shocked at this point if Lamar kind of went the route of Le'Veon Bell and was willing to sit out a season because the way he's been just so horribly disrespected. But do we think there's any odds he's playing anywhere else at this point, or is it still just Lamar with the Ravens or bust? What's our read on this right now?
Feels very heavily Ravens favored. It feels like there would have been any sort of rumbling of teams really being interested. We got the wave of teams that immediately say they're not in on him as soon as we get the non-exclusive tag. I wonder how that happens. And then supposedly the Raiders, like the next report is like, oh, Raiders would consider it. And then it's all quiet on that front since. So I'm not really buying into that.
There might be some owners deleting some emails.
Yeah, it seems like everyone is in unison out on Lamar Jackson as far as acquiring him for 2 first-round picks plus the contract you'd have to give him. Maybe things change down the road after the draft where some teams are sort of out of the quarterback carousel, but I don't think that's very likely. I think it is Baltimore or bust. I ultimately do think he'll play for Baltimore, but it's a pretty miserable situation for him to be in. Like, man, that even if they do eventually agree to an extension, or no team offers, makes the offer sheet, I would just not. I don't blame him for just not wanting to play for Baltimore.
The well has
point,
been,
like you were sort of alluding to. Yes, very much so.
Lawrence, you are our Lamar Jackson whisperer. What are your thoughts on Lamar right now?
Yeah, he definitely gonna play. It already been a report saying that he would from Justina Anderson. She pretty locked in. If all else fails, he'll play for the 32 million. And I think when he got the non-exclusive tag, I think for like 5 minutes, we was like, oh yeah, he about to be on the Panthers, the Falcons, the Raiders, and then the Panthers, the Falcons, the Raiders. All
he needs to be on the Falcons,
no. Then the Commanders, who about to start Sam Howell. No, we don't want Lamar. And, it's cool. I mean, maybe these teams are feeling like the Ravens will, match that offer. Now, had those teams made those offers last week, right? Ravens have 5 days to match. Ravens could just sit on that for 5 days. And let's say you the Raiders or the Saints, and you're waiting for Lamar, where you missing out on Jimmy G, Derek Carr. So these teams, maybe they trying to get ahead of it. They like, oh, well, we might not get Lamar. Oh man, I guess we'll just take Jimmy G because that's about they're close enough. They're close in talent. So let's just settle in on Jimmy G or the number 1 overall draft pick, which I'd rather have one of them rookie quarterbacks than Jimmy G or Derek Carr at this point. And that's easy for me.
I'd rather have Will Levis than either of them.
Yeah, that's definitely a debate there. And this coming from a guy who will take Stetson Bennett over Will Levis. I would take Stetson. I just had to throw that out there.
You did. That's like a take bomb.
I'll do Hendon. I'll be in for Hendon Hooker over Will Levis.
Give me that too easy. Give me Max Duggan from TCU. I just like what a guy like Max Duggan is made of. But back to Lamar, yeah, I think it's I don't know what it is on Sportsbook right now, but he probably got better odds of playing for the Ravens than CJ Stroud does of getting picked number 1 overall, and those are pretty heavy odds.
There have been reports too that the Ravens would just match any offer sheet to your guys' point, but man, it's just like, why? How have the Ravens not gotten this figured out yet? And this maybe some vaguely collusive activity by the rest of the league with regards to Lamar and him wanting an all fully guaranteed contract. But I just don't understand. The Falcons and the Panthers were the two teams I thought really needed it. The Falcons, like if you plug Lamar Jackson in the Falcons roster, like you've got a really, really, really dangerous team. I feel like, and it makes no sense to me that the Falcons aren't all over this.
Great content will come from Lamar Jackson being the Falcons quarterback. For me, at least. I don't know about everybody.
I mean, Lawrence, I don't know if you could personally handle Lamar and Pitts being on the same team. Like, I think that would be very dangerous.
Well, what I know Kyle Pitts would finally get the ball because he's a tight end.
True,
I know that.
True.
I know that.
I think that would be too much stress for you, though, if they were all concentrated in one location, Lamar and Pitts. But and the Falcons, the Falcons were the team. They were like the team I thought needed to do it, and they're apparently not going to do it. Lawrence, you mentioned Jimmy G. You mentioned Derek Carr. I don't know why. I'm ending the show on this torturous question where if you were forced to pick one for 2023, I don't even know if I guess I mean in fantasy. I don't know why. I mean, none of those guys are going to be getting drafted in the kind of leagues we play in. We're late. We're waiting on quarterbacks. It's one QB. Let's say super flex. You're on for your super flex. Who would you rather have, Jimmy Garoppolo or Derek Carr for 2023?
You go first, Kyle. I'm
not all at once. Not all.
Give me Carr. Give me Carr. I don't know. He's better. And I think he'll join what will probably be a better offense in terms of the talent surrounding him. I don't know. I just get better. Like you said, I don't know. Maybe it's just it's a vibes-based take. Look, we're 45 minutes and 59 seconds into the show. We're at vibes-based takes. This Raiders offense vibes suck. So
I'll say this. The thing about Derek Carr, right, was like Davante Adams went off. Josh Jacobs had the best year of his career by far. How did Derek Carr manage to still not be good? So that worries me. But see, is now like I don't know if that's him or that's him. You know, is it him or them? So I mean, if I had to choose, give me the Saints because they've been a better team, you know, recently. Like when I say recently, I mean like 15 years recent.
Yes. And Derek Carr, too, I mean, the injury concerns probably have to play into. Jimmy Garoppolo does not play full seasons. And does Derek Carr, I've already made this point several times, like John Gruden maxed out his efficiency. It immediately really declined under Josh McDaniels. I just think really overestimates how good of a quarterback guru he is. And and this we have now a guy coming from the quarterback manipulator of Kyle Shanahan, like who's basically feeding the inputs himself into the computer to get the EPA to go through the roof for Jimmy Garoppolo. Having him go from Kyle Shanahan to Josh McDaniels.
If the Raiders had that type of defense because when Jimmy G did play, he was serviceable and they went places, but they don't have like no 49ers defense over there in Las Vegas, so I can't do it.
Quite the opposite, in fact.
Yeah, and for fantasy purposes, this is maybe the most important point is Derek Carr's going to play the full, health aside, Derek Carr's playing the full 17-game season. If you were drafting right now, people are drafting plenty of best ball drafts right now. You can far from guarantee you're getting a full season from Jimmy Garoppolo, which really does matter when both of these guys, like you're drafting them because you should be drafting them because you're like, yeah, they're probably not going to be great. They're my third quarterback or whatever, or they're my second quarterback and I have Mahomes. I just need to make sure they're around when Mahomes is on bye or when he has one of his 2 or 3 bad games a year. I truly don't. I'd almost bet right now the projection for Jimmy is like 13.5 to 14.5 games. I think they're very likely, or at least very reasonably likely, to take a quarterback. Probably have to be Will Levis, but like I think the projection for games is significantly higher when we're talking about missing just 2 or 3 games. Could be the difference for either your best ball or just your season-long league if you're counting on that player coming in for the Josh Allen bye, or you just gambled on quarterbacks and went 2 late guys. Probably want those late guys to be projected to lock in at 17 games. That's not true, Jimmy, right now.
Poor Davante Adams.
I know, man. He's got to force another trade.
Do it again, Davante. Yeah, there are a bunch of Raiders players who were just tweeting like, please. I'm so sad. Someone help.
Devonta immediately claimed it was about something else. He tried to walk back his.
No, he's trying to get to the Jets now.
Yeah, it's time. I want chaos. I want Devonta on the Jets. Please, please. I don't want this show to be over, but it is. We did a really good job breaking down kind of the second half of the first wave of free agency. If you want a take on the first half, check out our podcast from last Thursday. Check out Lawrence's stock up, stock down article. Check out my free agency recap article. Still a lot of really, really good stuff from Kyle on the site, his offseason preview series, a lot of draft content from Kyle coming down the pipe. So we all have the site loaded with stuff right now. We'll be podcasting again later this week. So for Lawrence Jackson, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thanks for listening. We will be back later.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.